What do the lines, "the seed I spent or sown it where, the land is his and none of mine," means in the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings? Does the poem talk of an exclusively personal experience or a fairly universal one? What is the central theme of the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings? Welcome to my classroom, where today we will study the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings. Elizabeth Jennings was an English poet noted for her introspective and emotionally resonant poetry. Her works often explore themes of love, loss, religion, and the complexities of human relationships. Father to Son was first published in the collection Recoveries in 1964. Later, in a more famous poem collection, Collected Poems in 1967. Let's read the poem together. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. Yet, have I killed the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine? We speak like strangers, there is no sign of understanding in the air. The child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks, I cannot understand myself. Why anger grows from grief? We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. In these lines, the father expresses a profound misunderstanding and distance in his relationship with his son. Let's break down the lines for a better understanding. The father admits he does not comprehend or grasp his child's nature. They need more understanding despite sharing a living space and spending considerable time together. However, those suggest this physical closeness has not translated into a deeper emotional or relational understanding. The father emphasizes the depth of his lack of knowledge about his son. It goes beyond a mere surface level misunderstanding. He feels a profound disconnect and inability to comprehend his son's thoughts, feelings, and identity. Faced with this lack of understanding, the father attempts to reconstruct or build a connection by revisiting the memories of his son's childhood. He hopes that by understanding how the son was when he was small, he might find a way to bridge the developed emotional gap. In short, the opening stanza captures the emotional distance between the father and son. Despite sharing a physical space, their relationship lacks the deeper connection and understanding that the father desires. The attempt to build a connection by reminiscing about the son's childhood reflects a longing for a meaningful relationship based on shared history and understanding. Yet have I killed the seed I spent or sown it where, the land is his and none of mine. We speak like strangers, there is no sign of understanding in the air. This child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. The above lines delve into the father's contemplation of his relationship with his son. The father reflects on whether his efforts in raising and nurturing his son have been in vain, or whether the influence he exerted has taken root. The metaphor of killing the seed suggests a doubt that his actions may have negatively impacted the son's growth or independence. This line continues the metaphor, suggesting that the son's life, represented as the land, belongs to him, not the father. It raises questions about the extent of parental influence and control over a child's life, particularly as the child matures. The father laments the current state of communication between him and his son. the use of strangers emphasizes the emotional distance that has developed. Despite living together, there is a lack of connection and understanding between them. The father acknowledges that the son is a product of his upbringing, built to my design. However, despite this influence, there is a significant gap in their interests and affections. The father finds it difficult to connect with or appreciate the things that bring joy to his son's life. The lines capture a father's disillusionment and frustration in the face of a strained relationship with his son. The father grapples with the realization that despite his intentions and efforts, a divide between him and his son prevents proper understanding and shared experiences. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. In these lines, the father reflects on the silence and emotional distance between him and his son, expressing a desire for reconciliation and understanding. Silence surrounds us suggests a lack of communication or a breakdown between the father and son. The silence may represent the emotional distance and inability to connect on a deeper level. The speaker expresses a longing for the son to return to the familiarity and the comfort of his childhood home. The term prodigal refers to someone who returns after leaving, often with a sense of waywardness. The father wishes the son to return to the security and understanding the family home represents. The father prefers the idea of the son returning home over witnessing him create and navigate his independent life. There is a sense of fear or concern about the son moving away and establishing a life separate from the family. Despite any perceived wrongdoing or distance, the father forgives the son. Forgiveness is seen as a way to overcome the sorrow and pain in their relationship. The phrase, shaping from sorrow a new love, suggests the possibility of building a renewed and transformed connection born out of the challenges and difficulties they have faced. In the third stanza, the father's sentiments reveal a desire for reconciliation, forgiveness, and a return to the familial bond they once shared. The preference for the son's return to the father's house reflects a yearning to restore a connection that has been strained or lost over time. The willingness to forgive and shape a new love emphasizes the hope for a positive transformation in their relationship. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks, I cannot understand myself, why anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. In the final stanza, the father reflects on the shared existence of father and son and their mutual struggle to understand themselves and each other. Let's break down the last stanza. The speaker acknowledges the father and son's shared physical space and earthly existence. They inhabit the same world, emphasizing the inescapable reality of their relationship. The son expresses his inner struggles and emotional complexities. The difficulty he faces in understanding himself is highlighted, particularly in the context of emotions such as anger arising from grief. This suggests a shared sense of inner turmoil. Both the father and the son extend metaphorical empty hands, symbolizing a desire for connection and reconciliation. The emptiness may represent the void or lack of understanding between them. The shared longing for something to forgive indicates a mutual recognition of their relationship's need for forgiveness and healing. The final stanza showcases the shared struggles and the longing for understanding and forgiveness, emphasizing the common humanity that transcends the specific dynamics of their relationship. The image of extending empty hands highlights the vulnerability and openness required for reconciliation, suggesting that both the father and the son are reaching out for a resolution to their shared emotional conflicts. Let's shift to the analysis of the poem. First, tone. The tone of Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings is contemplative, introspective, and somewhat melancholic. Throughout the poem, the speaker, who appears to be the father, reflects on the complexities of the relationship with his son. There is a sense of deep introspection as the speaker grapples with the challenges and emotional distance between them. The tone becomes more poignant as the speaker expresses a longing for understanding, reconciliation, and forgiveness. Second, type. Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings can be classified as a dramatic monologue, a form of poetry where a single speaker addresses a silent or absent listener. While dramatic monologues often contain lyric elements, they are distinguished by their narrative or dramatic structure. Therefore, Father to Son is not strictly a lyric poem, but a dramatic monologue that engages with personal emotions and reflections within a narrative framework. Third, structure. The poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings is structured as a series of sestets, each consisting of 6 lines. The rhyme scheme for each sestet is not consistent. However, it provides a framework for exploring the poem's complex emotions and reflections on the father-son relationship. Now let's shift to the themes used in the poem Father to Son. First, communication and misunderstanding. The primary theme revolves around the difficulty of communication and understanding between the father and son. The poem emphasizes the challenges of connecting despite physical proximity, creating a poignant portrayal of the emotional distance. Second, generational divide. The exploration of a generation gap is another significant theme. The father reflects on the differences in the perspectives, interests, and values between himself and his son. This theme adds depth to the portrayal of the evolving relationship over time. Third, desire for reconciliation. The poem highlights the father's deep desire to understand his son better. Despite the struggles, there is a genuine effort on the father's part to build a meaningful relationship and bridge the emotional gap. This theme highlights the universal yearning for connection within parent-child relationships. These 3 themes capture the essence of the emotional struggles depicted in the poem and contribute to its exploration of familial relationships and the challenges that come with them. Now, where do we see symbolism used in the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings? First, empty hand. The repeated mention of empty hand in the poem can symbolize the father and son's inability to grasp or understand each other. It represents the void or lack of connection between them. The father and son reach out with empty hands, longing for something to forgive, but the gesture remains unfulfilled. Second, seed. The seed can be interpreted as a metaphor for the father's influence, efforts, or investment in the upbringing and development of his son. It represents the potential for growth regarding the son's character and the relationship between father and son. Third, spent or sown. The choice of words spent and sown introduces ambiguity and reflects the father's uncertainty about the outcome of his efforts. Spent suggests an expenditure of energy or resources, perhaps indicating a sense of depletion or loss. Sown means planting and nurturing, a more hopeful and constructive action. The juxtaposition of these terms captures the complexity of the father's feelings towards his role in his son's life. Fourth, now this one is very important. The land is his and none of mine. The phrase symbolizes the son's independence and separateness. The land represents the son's individuality, life, and experiences. The father acknowledges that the son's world is distinct from his own. None of mine highlights the emotional distance and the father's recognition that he cannot claim ownership over his son's life or decisions. Fifth, prodigal son. The reference to the prodigal son can be seen as a symbolic longing for the son to return to a previous state of closeness and familiarity. The father wishes for reconciliation and a return to the son's father's house, which may symbolize a return to a more harmonious and connected past. Sixth, land and globe. The references to the same land and the same globe symbolize the father and the son's shared physical space and existence. Despite inhabiting the same world, there is a sense of emotional and psychological distance between them. Now let's come to the most crucial question from the poem. Does the poem talk of an exclusively personal experience, or is it fairly universal? Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings explores the complex and often challenging relationship between a father and his son. While the poem superficially offers a personal experience, it delves deep into universal themes many people can relate to. The poet reflects on the difficulty of understanding and connecting with one's child, even when they have lived together for years. The poem touches on the universal theme of generational differences, the passage of time, and the challenge of communication within a family. Ultimately, the poem suggests a longing for understanding, forgiveness, and reconciliation between father and son. The themes explored in Father to Son go beyond the specific details of the poet's personal experience, making it a poem with universal resonance and relevance to anyone who has grappled with the complexities of parent-child relationships. To conclude, Father to Son is a reflective piece that captures the universal struggles within parent-child relationships, exploring the themes of communication, generational shifts, and the persistent hope for reconciliation and understanding. The metaphorical language and imagery addresses themes of influence, autonomy, and the challenges of understanding and connecting with the younger generation. This brings us to the end of the explanation and analysis of the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings. We have completed all 5 poems from Class 11 textbook Hornbill. To learn more about Class 11 poems literary devices and detailed descriptions, check out the Class 11 literary devices playlist and Class 11 poems playlist on this channel and at www.missroclassroom.com. Like, share, subscribe. Remember to press the notification icon. Bye-bye.